Welcome to Electric Evolution with Liz Allan. This podcast is about the journey to a more sustainable future in order for us to be able to do our bit to achieve net zero. I'll be discussing a variety of topics with experts in their field in order to educate and increase our knowledge of clean energy, electric vehicles and the electric vehicle infrastructure. So whether you're an individual wanting to make a difference at home, a small business or a corporate, this podcast is just for you. On today's podcast, I have the one and only Colin Boyton from hello. Now he's the events manager at Greenfleet, looks after the Greenfleet EV rally. He just does so many things. I don't actually know how you've managed to fit it all into your day, Colin, and your team, obviously. Thank you for joining me. It's absolutely brilliant to see you. I've been trying to get you on here for at least 12 months now, haven't I?
Yes, you have, and thank you for your perseverance.
Well,
it was. I think when you and I first touched base last year, I think I was sort of deeply entrenched in the prep for the rally, so it was a rather busy time. It's a little bit quieter at this stage. It's going to start ramping up very shortly as we get ready for the 24 version, but we'll come on to that in a bit. But no, thanks for having me.
Hey, no, it's brilliant, and I'm always very patient. Well, ask my husband, you might find that he might say something different, but mostly I am very patient, and it's brilliant to have you on here.
Thank you.
So let's start off. So you've been working. So Greenfleet is part of PSI Group, isn't it?
Yeah, PSI is we're a media company. We started our life back in 1994. I joined in 95, and at that time we were publishing one magazine for local and central government, and that was it. And my role within the business at the time was to sell advertising space in the magazine. We then added an education title and then a health title, so an NHS title. And those sort of grew over the space of sort of 7, 8, 9 years. And then we decided, and it's a natural progression for many publishers, certainly back in the sort of late 90s, early noughties, was to move into events. So we bought an existing title which had already been put on the back burner, which was Greenfleet. It was a magazine already, but it was a little bit before its time back in 1995.
I can imagine.
A lot going on in the green space. I'm going back to the days of LPG and things like that. So, but my chairman sort of saw a bit of vision and saw where this could potentially go. So he bought the title. We gave it a new look and relaunched the magazine in 1995. No, sorry, in 2005. 2005 we relaunched the mag, and at the same time we staged our first ever event as PSI, which was the Greenfleet Awards.
Is that how long it's been going for? Greenfleet Awards? Goodness me.
So it's our 20th anniversary this year. So it's a big year for us as the events department for Greenfleet. The brand Greenfleet is celebrating its 25th anniversary this year.
So give me some background to Green. So for those that don't know about Greenfleet, give me some background to what Greenfleet is. Obviously, it's media, and like you said, you've got it was a magazine originally, but what was the basis behind it?
I guess the basis behind it was somebody had this vision that transport in the UK needed to clean up. There were some of the vehicle manufacturers were beginning to bring out sort of new technology such as LPG, and the role of Greenfleet, if you like, was to act as a sort of a middleman, for want of a better phrase, between those that produce the technology and those that use the technology. So the fleet manager and the transport manager at one end, and getting them talking to those that can help them with cleaner solutions. So that's what Greenfleet started as. Many of the public sector fleets were the early adopters, so local authorities predominantly, and some of the government agencies like the Environment Agency. They started to switch over to LPG, and at the time Toyota had just come to market with the Prius. So this is when we first started to see the hybrid technology starting to creep in. So we, as I said, we relaunched the magazine, and we decided to introduce the Greenfleet Awards to recognise the manufacturers that were producing the stuff, the organisations that were offering services to fleet managers such as telematics and leasing and whatever else, and also then to the fleets themselves. So it was the fleet managers and the organisations that were already trying to introduce the technology into their transport operations. We felt they needed a bit of recognition, and that would then hopefully sort of help the whole thing start to build some momentum. So that was 2005. We then staged in 2006 our first ever event where fleet managers could come along and get what I call that sort of touch, taste, feel experience, which is getting behind the wheel of the vehicle and actually putting it through its paces. So we had an event called the Greenfleet Arrive and Drive, where effectively fleet managers arrived at the venue, and then all they did was drive all day long, testing out different cars, vans, whatever else. We ran it in Silverstone in its first year, in 2006, and then we switched over to a new circuit that had opened at the time called Rockingham, which is in Corby in Northamptonshire. And it worked really, really well. We sort of spent 2 or 3 years developing the event and growing it. More and more manufacturers coming in each year as they started to bring vehicles to market. So we very quickly sort of carved ourselves out a nice little niche in the sort of fleet media space. There was already a couple of magazines already in the space, but they were very sort of generic fleet titles. They're both still in existence today. Whereas we focused purely on the clean and green end of fleet management. And that's how we grew the brand. As we developed in 2009, we were approached by the Scottish government, who said, look, we've been watching the Arrive and Drive at Rockingham for a few years. We need to do something up here north of the border. Can you come and help us? So we had a series of meetings, and in 2009 we launched Greenfleet Scotland. And I'm pleased to say that this year will be our 16th year working with Transport Scotland to help them sort of, what we want to try and do is provide a platform for the Scottish government to reach out to the Scottish business community and say, look guys, this is our strategy, this is where we need to get to, and we need you to sort of come on this journey with us. And then Greenfleet provides that sort of, as I said, that sort of middleman scenario where the fleet managers in Scotland get to talk and liaise with those that have solutions for them to get to effectively what will hopefully be a net zero status at some point in the future.
So when did electric start featuring then?
I think, again going back to Rockingham, I think we were at Rockingham from 2007 through till about 2014, 2015. And Vauxhall were trying to come to market with a car called the Ampera. And it was my sort of halo product. That was the one I wanted. And for 2 years that we'd heard about this car coming to market, the guy from Vauxhall would come along to the event and he'd say, next year, Colin, I'll be here, I promise. As soon as it's ready, I'll be here. And to be fair, he was. So Ampera came, and then I think Mitsubishi came to market with a small electric car called the IMEV, which I think for those that aren't involved in our space and aren't involved in EV, there's many people out there that still have this misconception that, you know, electric cars are these little bubble cars that sort of poodle around making no noise. And
like a milk
and that, to be fair, that's exactly what this thing looked like. And Citroën and Peugeot had a rebadged version of the IMEV. But for me, the game changer was the Leaf, Nissan coming to market with the Leaf, the first generation Leaf. That was when we started to notice a big shift, and a big sort of percentage of our fleet audience that read Greenfleet and came to Greenfleet events, they were starting to look at the EV space, and it was Nissan really for me that sort of kick-started it all. They formed the alliance obviously with Renault. Renault very quickly followed up with the Zoe, So it was two small cars really that, in my opinion, changed the space and the thinking and the mindset of fleet managers. And then it was a question of, how do fleet managers then start to look at, when they've got, I don't know, a BMW 3 Series is arguably one of the most popular fleet cars there's ever been, and probably still is. I don't know without checking my stats, but how do they organisations satisfy their company car drivers who are used to driving, say, a 3 Series BMW? Asking them to switch over to a Renault Zoe is just not going to wash.
Yeah.
So it was then reliant on the on the vehicle manufacturers to then come to market with more viable fleet solutions. And then obviously a man on the other side of the pond by the name of Elon Musk popped up with the Model S, and that then was the game changer, wasn't it? I think everybody agrees it was Tesla coming to market with a Model S, and where Nissans were doing sort of 75, 80, 90 miles range, and he was coming out with 250 odd mile range. It was like, well, how's he doing it? And and I think when his battery technology became widely available and other manufacturers sort of sussed what was going on and how he was doing it, then very, very quickly the momentum started to build. And I think over the last 5 or 6 years, what the manufacturers have done, in my opinion, is nothing short of incredible. The electric car's well here now, as we know. It's here, it's not going away, and it's just going to continue. It's now the bigger stuff that we will start to focus on as Greenfleet. And again, we'll come on to that when we talk about the rally. But I would say the last 6 or 7 years is where the EV thing has really sort of been the most prominent talking point at Greenfleet events.
Yeah, and what would you, at the moment then, obviously, things, like you're saying, things have kind of moved on a lot, haven't they, in the last
Yeah.
few years? And I'm assuming that fleet adoption for cars is, like you say, is easier than for vans and trucks. But what do you reckon? What's happening? Is there more of a shift now? Obviously, we've got to decarbonise anyway, haven't we, in the UK?
Yeah.
But are you seeing more of a shift towards, kind of electric vans and trucks and things like that compared to what it was with regards to just, if it's all cars, if that's all you've got, then that's all you're going to be able to go for, isn't it? Because the fleet managers are just getting that. Are you seeing more adoption, kind of
On the
across the
commercial
board?
side, for sure.
Yeah.
And again, I think, to be fair, I'm sure if we asked our friend, our mutual friend, Mr. Kirby, is there enough going on? He'd argue no, and to an extent, I'd make him right. But I think where the electric car thing sort of took a while to sort of get going, and it was only when all of the manufacturers had at least one model available in sort of full BEV format that things sort of gather pace at a very good rate. I think the shift on the van side of stuff will happen much quicker than the car. They're already probably about a dozen different makes and models that you can buy or lease as a fleet manager in terms of electric vans, and then it's the next stage on from that is obviously the big boys, the trucks, I think the technology's there now. They know that they can produce this stuff. For me, there's it's the other end now. It's the charging that will help shape how quick the adoption is on the commercial vehicle side. But from our point of view, our big focus is definitely over the coming years will definitely be on cars, on vans and trucks. We're not sort of saying that the car thing's done. Far from it. There's still a lot of education needs to go on, and that includes fleet as well as consumers. But in our space, there's loads of fleet managers out there that still haven't focused or given any attention at all to electrifying their fleet, be it car, van or truck. So there's still a role for us to play, and the likes of yourselves and all the good people that we work with in our space. there's a lot of work still to be done, and but I think, through collaboration and all of us sort of pulling in the same direction, we will get there, definitely.
So why, right, you've just said, it just prompted this question. You've just said that lots of fleet managers are not moving over. Why do you think, have you had feedback from these fleet managers to say why that might be? Is it because there's a lack of confidence in the vehicles? Is it a lack of confidence in the infrastructure for the charging? Or is it all of the above?
I think it's a mixture of all of the above for sure, Liz. Yeah, for me, range anxiety now is just not a thing. It's not. The vehicles are more than capable of doing it. It's change anxiety. That's what it is now. People are scared of change, and all we can do is just keep, banging the drum and reaching out and trying to educate these people. And I think the best way of doing that is, it's all well and good coming along and hearing some of the wonderful minds that we've got in this industry and some of the experience that, people like Lorna can share. But there's no doubt about it, getting people behind the wheel, that's where we have seen the massive shift is that, as I said, that sort of touch, taste, feel experience. So I think from that point of view, we need to keep doing that. But yeah, you're right. Also, it is the charging, it's the infrastructure out there. We know it's good. Between us, we know it's good, and it's only going to get better. But that, again, I think that is one of the big reasons that fleet managers are still reluctant to sort of look at getting rid of their traditional combustion engine vehicles and making that sort of transition over. And then you've got the drivers as well. It's not just about, the fleet manager may be convinced, but then it's convincing white van man, isn't it? I've been driving a diesel van for 20 years. What do I want to drive electric for? Well, that's part of, again, what the rally does, is it allows businesses that take part in the rally to educate their staff internally. By changing their driver lineup and things like that.
And that's what we need, isn't it? We need, it's about getting outside that kind of that talking shop, where there's no point in just us talking about this, is there?
No.
It's like, trying to get the word out to everybody else. So this is another reason for the podcast as well, so that could try and reach out to other people who aren't necessarily thinking about it, but actually that when they hear me talking to you, and people like you, hopefully gets them thinking about it. Because a lot of people, it's not necessarily on their radar yet, or it's on their negative radar because of the media attention that it's had, because we all know, and I've said this so many times on the podcast before, that media like negative clicks, because negative clicks, we are, as a country, and I'm sure it's not just the UK, we're very, we like this negativity, don't we? We like to find out all the juicy gossip on this, that and the other. We just need to try and get out there and sort of, counter all that rubbish with some, right, okay, have you actually sat in an EV, or have you sat in a truck? Have you sat in a van? Have you done these things? Don't just talk about it if you've not actually sat in one.
Well, yeah, and again, going back to 2017, 2018, we have another brand in-house here called Evolution. And Evolution is our consumer-facing EV motor shows that we do.
Okay.
So we get commissioned by either local authorities or regional government or authorities, and even in the case of Transport Scotland, national government, where they want to reach out to consumers and educate them on EV. And I kind of got to thinking back in 2016, the hardest sort of collection of consumers that we're going to have to try and influence is your hardcore petrol head.
Yeah.
Those that love the stink and the noise of a Mustang or whatever it might be. And I was thinking at the time, Formula One has got Formula E now. And then the next big race series in the UK is British Touring Car. And these are cars that people can relate to. You look at a British touring car, and yes, it's got numbers and stickers and sponsors all over it, but the bare bones of it is a car that you would see on the road every day, albeit a race version of it. So I literally pinged an email over to the organisers of the British Touring Car Championship and said, look, this is who we are, this is what we do. Formula E has come along as a sort of an electric version of Formula One. At some point, this technology is going to start creeping into your sport. Could we come along to one of your race weekends and have a variety of EVs on display and potentially available for test drive for the race fans? Because these are your hardcore petrol heads. And within 10 minutes, the head of PR for British Touring Car was on the phone saying, yes, we love this. What can you do? So what it ended up with is we staged an evolution at Brands Hatch in 2017. And you'll probably remember Go Ultra Low, which was the scheme which was sort of part industry and part government funded. I approached them and said, look, how do you feel about backing this? And to be fair to them, they did. And we created a 100 metre by 40 metre outdoor arena of all these different EVs on display. And we had a separate car park with a load ready for test drive. And at Brands Hatch Touring Car Weekend, the race itself only used half the circuit. I was given use of the other half. So we were able to say to these hardcore petrol heads, don't knock it till you've tried it. Go and take an EV around the Grand Prix loop of Brands. And John Curtis was with me and doing his bit to camera as he always does with us. And what we were getting John to do was to interview the people before they got in the car and then interview them again when they got out. And honestly, some of the footage we got was absolutely priceless. There was one guy that sprung to mind who he got out of the EV after his drive and his response was, wow, I can't believe these things can do what they do. I drive a Porsche as my everyday car at the moment. I'm now going to stick that on the side of my drive. I'm going to go out next week and order myself an EV, and my Porsche will now become my weekend car. And that, for me, is proof that if you get people behind the wheel and they get that, again, that touch, taste, feel experience, you're going to influence change. We just need to do more of it. That's all. And in a business sense, it's not quite as straightforward. So when you're trying to influence a fleet manager, obviously he or she has got, X amount of employees, in some instances, thousands of vehicles that they've got to try and switch from ICE over to EV. So it's not a straightforward process and it has to be done in blocks and bits and pieces. But again, doing the events that we do, it gives those fleet people the opportunity to come along and share experience, learn from each other, and talk to the people that have the solutions. And that is the vehicle manufacturers, the leasing companies, salary sacrifice, the charging, the workplace charging, depot charging, public charging organisations. All of that, we try to bring them all together in one place, one-stop shop. That's what Greenfleet events are.
Which is brilliant. And actually what you said about share by learning, that's the biggest thing, isn't it? Because it is this, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
Isn't it? I mean, before I started test driving EVs, when I knew we were kind of wanting to get one, I really didn't know what I didn't know, because I didn't know any different. I'd only ever driven a petrol car. I'd not gone down. We never went down the diesel route, but we always had a petrol car. So and it was trying to get your head round. So hang on a minute, right? Okay, so it drives like a normal car, but you just have to. I'd not really kind of driven an automatic either that much. I liked my gears, but sat me in an EV, I was happy as a blooming pig in poo. Just being able to do what they can do. It's hard. I said to a friend yesterday, I was trying to talk to her. I was talking to her about the car, and I went, I said, you could I'm happy for you to just jump in and have a bit of a go if you want to. I mean, we'll do it another time, but because I just thought it's hard to explain it to somebody what it feels like driving electric, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Especially the first time, that instant torque that you get with an EV, that the acceleration and that torque, the sort of, I guess, the power that's under your foot is phenomenal, and you couple that with the silence, and it is a very strange sensation, and one that I can certainly remember my first ever go, and I'll never forget it. And it's something that never goes, in my opinion. It certainly doesn't for me. Every EV I get into and drive, I still get a little bit of a tingle, a little bit of a buzz, because they are different. And for me, it is a much better driving experience. And I took my son. I bought him these sort of experience days,
Yes.
and I think he was only 18 at the time, so he'd only been driving for about 7 or 8 months, and I got him a Tesla day. So we went up to this track, and he was so excited. He'd been in a passenger seat with me for his first ever go in a Tesla, but this was him actually getting behind the wheel, and honestly, he grinned for days after that. And he talks about it all the time now. Whenever people say to him, what does your dad do for a living, Joe? And he says, electric car motor shows and things like that, and EV rally, and everyone's like, electric vehicles, and he's like, no, I've done it, I've tried it. And so he's, again, another thing that we've got to do is, taking the youngsters, the drivers that are just coming through, and educating these younger folk on where things are going to be in a few years' time. They need to sort of start getting a grip of it now, and that's where companies like the AA are really, really good. With their driving schools. They're actually teaching these new drivers now in electric vehicles, which I think is fantastic. So, there's lots that can be done, and there's lots of little elements to this in terms of the education piece. And Greenfleet is just one of them. There's other events out there, as we both know, where we all sort of bump into each other. And I think with the other events that go on in the EV space, there are some maybe that are a little bit guilty of it being a bit of an echo chamber.
Yeah.
It's the same people talking about the same stuff to the same people.
To the same people, yeah.
And while all of that is good, don't get me wrong, it's reaching the fresh blood. And what we do here every year is, we're constantly looking at the data that we hold here, that we use to reach out and engage with the sort of the fleet audience, to try and get them to either A, read Greenfleet Digital Magazine, or B, come to the events, or preferably both, and sign up for the newsletters and this, that and the other. We're constantly refreshing that data. So we're trying to, reach new people, to take the story to them and get them to come on this journey with us.
And I like it because I was lucky enough to attend the awards last year. Was it December?
Yeah,
November?
it was December last year.
And that was really interesting. I don't know what I was expecting. Kind of, obviously it does what it says on the tin.
Nor do I, by the sound of it.
Hey?
Nor do I. I don't know what you were expecting.
Well, it was really. I mean, it was a brilliant evening for a start off. But the actual awards, there were lots and lots of different categories, weren't there, in the awards? And I was blown away by it. I suppose it isn't until you get into the nitty gritty of what Fleet is about that actually you recognise, what these awards are for, and what and who's kind of doing what. And actually, it really, really opened my eyes. It was a brilliant event. It was, you guys put on some fantastic events. But yeah, that kind of really opened my eyes. I was kind of like, oh, okay, so that's what they do then.
Yeah, I mean, with the awards in particular, I guess there's sort of 3, maybe 4 elements to Fleet, for me anyway, breaking it down into its very basic terms. So you've got the vehicle manufacturers. Without them, none of this can happen. So they need recognition. So we have the manufacturer categories. Then you've got the solutions providers. So this is your charging, your leasing, your telematics and technology and that kind of stuff. So everything else that a fleet manager needs. So they need some recognition because they're the ones that are bringing this stuff to market. Then you've got the organisations that I guess are driving change, both public and private sector. So the sort of the fleet of the year categories that we have there. And then it's the individuals. None of this happens without somebody within any organisation, be it public or private sector, without them having the vision, I've got to do this, and I'm going to go and try and make this happen. Those people also need a pat on the back. So we do the individual sort of fleet manager categories, and then I think it was 10 years ago I introduced the EV champions. So that's how long the sort of EV thing's been going on. Last year was our 10th anniversary, so we created the Hall of Fame as well. So all of those people are now inducted, and I will continue to recognise 5 individuals a year that for us go above and beyond the sort of traditional role, and really sort of push the boat on the whole EV piece.
No, it was a really, really interesting evening. In fact, I was at Greenfleet Juice, the event in the morning.
During the day.
Yeah, and I actually got to talk to Fraser Crichton, who has been on the podcast as well now, because there were 3 fleet managers who you actually had up on stage talking case studies. There was the guy from Southern Ambulance, there was the chap from Royal Mail, and there was Fraser. And I mean, he's hilarious anyway, isn't he? But actually, I just thought these guys are doing so much, and I want I'd like the other 2 to come on here as well if I can still. I'm trying to get hold of them, but it's just really interesting to hear what they're doing and how they're actually innovating. Not get my teeth in, innovating. And actually making it work for them. So Fraser was a really, really interesting.
Yeah, he's a cracking guy. I've known Fraser for many years. He was sort of understudy to a guy called Gary McRae, who left Dundee Council and moved into the private sector space, and Fraser sort of took the role on. And Dundee as a city, it's widely regarded as the electric city, if you like. Some of the work they've done up there has been nothing short of phenomenal. He's a cracking guy. But then you mentioned, I think, the Royal Mail guy, so Stuart Murphy.
Yes, that's it.
Again, he's got the biggest fleet in the country. He's got probably the hardest job out of any fleet manager, arguably. Some might say, but we haven't got the budget that Stuart's got. But it really is horses for courses. That's a massive fleet that he's got to try and drag kicking and screaming, and all the people and the bureaucracy that he has to go through, to sort of make these changes happen. And then you've got Chris Rutherford, who I think is the other speaker you're referring to, London Ambulance. Now, I've known Chris since our first ever Greenfleet Awards were 2005. The second Greenfleet Awards were hosted by Islington Council. Okay. And it was at the beloved new stadium, the Emirates Stadium, Arsenal. I'm a massive Arsenal fan. So when Chris was Chris was the fleet manager at Islington Council at the time, and he said, "Look, we'd love to host the awards next year, and I can get you the new stadium if you want it." Wow. Okay then. So along we went. So Chris, he has won Fleet Manager of the Year as London Borough of Islington. He won European Fleet Manager of the Year when we done the European Greenfleet Awards in 2008 or 9. And he subsequently then moved, and he's now at London Ambulance, and he's also won Fleet Manager of the Year there. What this guy doesn't know is not worth knowing. And he's now arguably in charge of one of the most difficult fleets to decarbonise. An ambulance fleet is, it's no mean feat. And that's why we've launched, as you're probably aware, Emergency Green Fleet is an event we've been doing for a couple of years now. And, those guys really, really need some help because they have issues that don't really apply to your normal fleet manager, your traditional local authority or SME or even blue chip corporates. They don't have the same issues as the police, fire and ambulance fleets do. Yet they've still got the same targets. They've still got to do what everyone else has got to do, but they've got a more difficult job to do. So Chris, for me, he's a pioneer in this space. He's up there with the top people in our industry, in my opinion.
Right, so I'm going to be talking to you later on. I had to get you to have a word in his ear and get him on here.
Absolutely, I can certainly make those introductions, not a problem.
Fantastic. Now, we've got to talk the rally. We've got to talk the EV. I mean, there's obviously GF 100 as well, but we've got to talk the rally first.
Okay.
So the Greenfleet EV rally has grown. I would say it's grown into a wonderful beast, as I mean that in a nice way.
Yeah.
But you've got to give us some actual, give us some background to how that developed. Whose brainchild was that one then? Was that you?
Yeah.
Was it? I love it.
So as I sort of mentioned a little bit earlier on, we've been working with Transport Scotland for many years, and every year we sign contracts with them to do an event of one kind or another. It might be just a Greenfleet Scotland event. Over many of the years that we've been working with them, it's included a second day which has been evolution. So we do a fleet and business day, and then we do a consumer day. And in 2020 we had signed contracts with them to do a Greenfleet Scotland event for them. And they wanted it to happen during COP26 while COP was in Glasgow.
Yes.
Obviously, at the beginning of that year, or sort of March time, a small thing called COVID came along and knocked everything for six. And we, as a media brand, and we're no different to any other media brands, especially those that do events, legally we couldn't put live events on. So as a business, we had to sort of shift. And we had to move very, very quickly. And we managed to shift our events to a sort of an online format. Which we ran on and off due to lockdowns and this, that and the other, on and off for 2 years. But as we moved into 21, COP26 got moved into November 21. Our event that we had planned with Transport Scotland got moved with it. And at the beginning of 21, I was sat at home and I thought to myself, what else can we do while the eyes of the world are on Glasgow around sort of climate change and whatever else? What else can we do to show the rest of the world what the UK's up to with EV? And I literally created a graphic that said the EV Rally of Scotland, be a part of something unbelievable, with the EV in unbelievable in a different colour. And I dropped it on LinkedIn that night. It was about 10:30. And within, I think it was about 7 minutes, I'd had 3 messages in my inbox in LinkedIn. Can I drive my Tesla in your rally? And I'm like, no, that's not quite what I had in mind. So I sort of ignored the messages to start with. I came into the office the next morning and I said to my boss, I said, look, this is what I've done. I think there's something in this. We should explore it. So, I've got... I'm very fortunate. I work with for a guy called Jason Devoto. He's my MD, and he gives me quite a sort of an open and a free rein with this stuff. And he's willing to let me explore opportunities and see where they go. And with this one, I sort of spent a couple of hours thinking, right, well, what if we were able to put together some teams of vehicles, hopefully around 20 in total, and unleash them on the Scottish charging network and just see how it copes. And my idea behind it was, well, one thing we want to do is prove that the vehicles can do what they say on the tin. But not only can they do it, they can do it in some of the most challenging terrain anywhere in the UK, and also in miserable Scottish November weather. Which was another thing. So, very quickly, it morphed into something that turned into 23 electric cars and vans that we set off from Glasgow on the Monday morning, and it was a 5-day moving showcase of all things EV. And what I wanted to do was, as I said, prove that the vehicles could do it, that the charging infrastructure in Scotland's already good and it's only going to get better. Try and visit sort of clean energy projects along the way to sort of showcase how they sort of feed into the EV narrative. And I guess at the same time, visit some of the most stunning scenery anywhere in the world, to be fair. So that's what we did. And the idea behind it was that each day would consist of a start and a finish. And in between that would be a series of official checkpoints that the vehicles had to go through. At each checkpoint, I wanted the drivers to effectively check in, so we know they've been there. But more importantly, this is where social media, I thought the power of social media is what can really drive this thing. Take a picture of the vehicle, post it on social media using very strict hashtags and handles. And we pre-wrote all the social media copy for the checkpoints. I think I wrote 960 pieces of copy.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So it was team blah blah at checkpoint such and such on day blah, which is featuring a wind farm from them, and so it was all these different handles and stuff. But what it done was it created this sort of online snowball that just grew very, very quickly. And to show how quick, at the end of day one on the first ever rally, I got a phone call from the Scottish Transport Minister's office who said, we've been watching the rally all day. We know you're in Dundee on Friday on the last day. The Minister's in Dundee. Could you meet him? So of course I said yes. And then the following morning, STV had got wind of it. And said, look, we understand from the Minister's office that you're meeting in Dundee. Could we come down and could we do some stuff for the news? So that's what happened. On the last day, we met in Dundee. We met with the Transport Minister, and you know, it was a great chat. It was a long week with some serious ups and downs. But what got us through the whole thing was this wonderful spirit that is in our industry, and me and you've seen it. We see it every time we meet up with
Amazing.
You know, some of the big names in the industry, you know, Sarah Sloman and Paul Kirby and Sam Clark and obviously John Curtis and people of that ilk. And then there's, you know, the Lawners of this world who sort of come into the rally the following year. But we got to the finish line and I was immediately asked, what are we doing next year, Colin? And I was like, okay, so there's going to be another one. That's good. I said, well, let's do John O'Groats to Land's End. So 21 was the first ever EV rally. There was 23 vehicles. But I'll tell you what it was, Liz. It was the vehicle manufacturers that put teams in. Right. So it was Maxus, it was Polestar, it was Kia, and it was Stellantis that put vehicles in. And then I had some wonderful support from Kirsty and Edmund at the AA, and also, you know, James and Richard and the guys down at Webfleet who put some technology onto the vehicles. So they've been together with us on the rally from the get-go. But in year two, when we decided to do John O'Groats to Land's End, the whole thing shifted. The manufacturers, apart from Maxus, they decided that it wasn't for them. So the car manufacturers predominantly.
Yeah.
And then it became our audience that wanted to take part. So we done a showcase at the awards at the end of 21, showed off what Evros had done, the EV Rally of Scotland. And I was immediately approached on the awards night by Lorna and Graham at National Grid, by Ollie Crawn at DPD, who they said to me, we want to be part of this, how do we get involved? So we started to talk, and then this new sort of theme to the rally started to take hold, and it was the fleets that wanted to be part of it, along with some manufacturers, and then it was industry as well. So Lex Autolease came in as our headline sponsor for the first year, which was great of them to support it. We still had the AA, we still had Webfleet, some of the charging companies came on board, and then there was people like Neil at Riddle at Power and the Power Rangers, as I named them at the time, and I can claim copyright on that.
Did you?
Excellent. Yeah, that was my thing, and Neil was like, I don't want to do that, that's too cheesy. And then within about 3 weeks, I think the people internally had said to him, no, hang on a minute, there's something in this.
It's
And
good, yeah.
that's how the Power Rangers were born. But it's through the collaboration that we experienced with all of these organisations coming together for the greater good that we done John O'Groats to Land's End, and it was an event that doubled in size. We went from 23 vehicles to 46. Again, it was over 1,200 miles, but that for me was where I first witnessed this camaraderie and the feel good factor that is within our industry. And we got to the finish line, and John Curtis stuck a microphone under my nose and said, how are you, mate? This is all down to you, blah, blah, blah. What's been the highlight of the week for you? And in front of me, which you couldn't see because the camera was on me, but in front of me was sort of 50 odd drivers who'd been there for the whole week. And I said, it's these people. The feel good factor and the collaboration that had gone on is what's driven this and what was the highlight for me. So it very quickly became a big event that was massively spoken about. But for me that year, it got voted in my industry, which is media. It got voted event of the year in the media industry, which is a great accolade. For something that started off in my head 18 months prior, for it to sort of reach that kind of level and that kind of status for me was I was massively proud. But I can't do any of this without the top to bottom support that I get internally as well. It's while everybody in the industry that supports the rally, they're all fantastic, but my team as well. They work long hours on these rallies. We're up at the crack of dawn, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, and we're at it till sort of 11 o'clock at night in some instances, with my logistics crews that are out there putting all the branding out ready for the teams to arrive. That's one thing, but then I've got 2 more logistic crews behind the rally that are sweeping it all up, so it's ready for the next day. So they're not getting in till stupid o'clock at night while we're all we've had our dinner, we've had our chat round the bar, and we've gone to bed before they're even rolling into the car park. So, and then there's the media crews. John and Sarah done an amazing job for me last year. Bringing the rally to life on camera. And so we know that 2 amazing personalities, hugely knowledgeable, massively enthusiastic, and when you're in the back end of nowhere in Scotland and it's throwing it down with rain and it's got dark at 3:30 and everybody's miserable, and then you get Sarah Sloman pull up in a car and she bounds around like Zebedee off of Magic Roundabout.
It's like Tigger, yeah.
Unbelievable enthusiasm. It's catching, We all turned up to the hotel on day 3 of the first ever rally, and it had been a horrible day. I'd already called it the Beast, but I didn't realise quite how hard and challenging it was going to be. And it was only through Sarah and also Linda Grave. I must give Linda a little mention here, because Linda and I hadn't actually met. We'd spoken on the phone, and she wanted to be a part of the rally. So she took an overnight train up to Scotland, and she got to the hotel that we was due to arrive at on the north coast in a place called Thurso. And it was, as I said, it was a beast of a day. It was rotten weather. It was 325 odd miles, I think we'd had to do through the Highlands of Scotland. Yeah. And everybody was turning up at the hotel, but Linda had been there all afternoon. She'd got everybody's tables organised for dinner. She'd created these little posters, and honestly, nothing short of incredible. And you walk through the door, absolutely shattered, and you've got the lovely Linda there to greet you, and she was all bubbles and smiles, and instantly your mood changed. And that was down to her, that was nothing short of incredible. She's been a part of the rally since then, and as it stands at the moment, I don't know if she's got a drive this year, so I want to use this platform to say, if any of you that are involved in the rally this year need a driver, come through to me, or if you know Linda, reach out to her direct, because she's desperate to come on board again and be a part of this stuff. and she's hugely knowledgeable. She knows what she's doing. She's done the rallies before. So please give her a drive if you get the opportunity. But so at the end of 21, it went into 22 on a national scale. Then last year we done the Capital City Challenge, and this was a whole new challenge for me again, because we were trying to go around the 5 capital cities, so Cardiff, London, Edinburgh, Belfast, Dublin. 3 of those we knew would be relatively simple, which was the first couple of days, but then stepping across over to Ireland was a huge challenge,
wasn't it?
massive challenge. Because the charging infrastructure over there is thin. It's probably the best way of putting it. It was not easy. So we had that first, but then I was very fortunate to showcase electric HGV for the first time last year. DAF came in with a 19-ton electric truck, which was a collaboration piece with Cenex that they did. And then Jamie and James Venables at Mercedes-Benz came along with a 27-ton, I think, e-Actros. And that, for me, was the rally reaching its a whole new audience and a whole new strand to the narrative, because we were then showing that it's not just about electric cars, it's not even just about electric cars and vans, it is, the whole thing is there now. These trucks, these big beasts can get from A to B on full electric, and thanks to those guys for adding that sort of new dimension to the event, because it took it onto a new level for us, and I'm grateful to say that they're all back with us this year. We've got the Mercedes, but I think Jamie's, I don't know what he's doing, but I think he's 44 ton, I think, this year.
God.
Oh God!
I've got to say, I said this to you before we were recording as well. It was so impressive. So I met you at Bristol. So for those of you that don't know, Colin was brilliant. He was so kind and let me kind of go to about 3 checkpoints, wasn't it, with you? So I got the train from Reading down to Bristol, and then we did Bristol, Bristol, Heathrow, Wembley, and just waiting and seeing those vehicles coming in. What an absolute picture it was, and seeing the trucks coming in, and just the organisation was spot on. It really, really was. And trying to get all the vehicles in and then getting them all checked in and then heading off again. I think I was in the middle of a chat with somebody, wasn't I? And you were like, Liz, you can't go now. All right then, I'm off. It was amazing.
That was at the amphitheatre, wasn't it, in Bristol? The amphitheatre, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was.
Obviously, Lex being our headline sponsor, they own the building behind the amphitheatre. So that's why they wanted to do this showcase there. Yes. So not only did we have nearly 50 vehicles descending upon the amphitheatre, they had already lined up another 20 or so on static display. So it was a logistic challenge. It was like an EV jigsaw, trying to get everything on there, and then effectively turn it all around to get it all back out again. But that's where we first met.
It was amazing.
Yeah, and you joined us for the first few legs of that day.
I did in the back of your Tesla, going quite fast. It was great. It was. But
within the speed limits, wasn't it, Liz? Of course.
Darling, of course you were within the speed limits. I was just very surprised at how fast it could actually go. as in from 0 to that was kind of like
0 to the speed limit.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, it was just. It's one nippy beast, that Tesla, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, and but again, from my point of view as the organizer, and again with John and Sarah with doing the media stuff, all the teams are effectively going from A to B, and then to C to D to the finish, whereas we have to maybe go from A to B via something else.
Yes.
So we needed that comfort blanket, if you like, that the range on a Tesla can offer. Especially with John and Sarah, I mean, some of the places I send them off to do a showcase on one of the sponsoring teams, they are doing extra mileage over and above the sort of official appointed mileage for that day of the rally. So this year, logistics crews will all be electric. We've got, obviously, the media crews will all be electric. Me and my team will all be electric. Then we've got the teams involved again this year. Some of them are repeat from day one or from year one. So the AA are back with us with Drive Tech, who offer some amazing driver training for all of the organisations that are involved. Webfleet are back with us, putting tech on the vehicles where we can measure the miles per kilowatt hour, so the energy use of the vehicles. But at the same time, they're able to sort of show charging habits, how long a vehicle was on charge for, how many times did it charge a day. So was it going from sort of full to almost empty before they charged, or did that particular driver sort of have that sort of grazing approach to the rally, where they sort of stop at every opportunity they could and just grab 10 minutes here and there. So that's what the Webfleet stuff does. And then we've got people like Lorna. I can't do this without giving Lorna a bit of a shout out here, because what she does for the rally and what National Grid do, but predominantly it's Lorna. What she does for the rally is nothing short of incredible. They support the rally massively through not only getting involved and entering a team, but they offer some background support as well to my logistics crews, for example. As I said, these guys, they're in vans that don't necessarily have the range that the cars do, but they still need to try and stay ahead of the rally. And they might rock up at a public charge point on a motorway service station, for argument's sake, and all the bays are gone. Because we don't expect anyone to shut bays off for us. That's not what the rally's about. So they may get there and think, So, there's been one or two occasions where I've been able to pick the phone up and say, Lorna, look, I've got a problem, can you help? And there'll be a National Grid site that might be 10, 12 miles away or whatever. She makes a couple of quick phone calls, she's back on the phone to me, I'm then back on the phone to the guys, give them the postcode, they can rock up at a National Grid site, quickly plug in, get 20 minutes and then be on their way. So things like that are hugely crucial to making the event, the stuff that needs to go on in the background, which, you guys don't see, is things like that are hugely important, and Lorna's a massive part of that. But also on my Greenfleet side, forgetting the rally for 1 second, Lorna...
she was GF100, wasn't she? So for those that don't know who Lorna is, this is Lorna McAteer. She's been on the podcast as well. She was the number one of the GF100, so the Greenfleet 100, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was this year. Yeah, she was, and that is, for me, she is the most important person in our industry. Not woman, person. She is hugely knowledgeable. She's got a massive job on her own, just a day-to-day job of managing, I don't know what it is, 9,000 vehicles, I think, here in the UK. Something similar again over in the States that she's also deeply entrenched in for National Grid over there. And yet she still finds time to come out of the office, certainly 6 or 7 times a year for me, to get involved in the rally, but also to come to the Greenfleet events and talk and share her experience as a fleet manager on how she's gone down this decarbonisation and electrification route with her own fleet. But what she's really good at is talking to people at a level that they can understand. So, when I go back to this, we're trying to still reach people that haven't actually gone on this journey yet. The novices, the beginners. She can talk to them at that level, but the same token, she can go in and talk to, I don't know, the chief exec of Microsoft and at that level, and also talk to people of that ilk. So she's a massively supportive, very helpful person. I've got a lot of time for her. And again, they're back with us again this year. We have got some, as I said, we've got some new blood this year. We're going to some new places. The theme this year is A to Z. So we're going old school. You remember the days before TomToms and Google Maps?
I do like the A to Z idea.
When we used to spread maps out across the dashboard of the car. And I'm not, while you were stopped, by the way, not while you were driving. And we're going to try and work our way through towns and cities in alphabetical order. That's not been easy to put together, but we've kind of got there. There's not a town in the UK that begins with X. So the best I could do was Exeter.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've bent the rules a little bit, I think, for the.
You've got to do it. And I noticed Z is slightly different as well.
Zouche we're going to.
Yeah. Ashbydilla Zouche.
No. It's
Oh,
not
is it not Ashbydilla
No,
Zouche?
it's about 15 mile away.
Oh, right. Okay. I was just laughing, going, "Oh, he means Ashbydilla Zouche, then, doesn't he?"
No. So we've got some cracking sites that we're going to visit this year, which are courtesy of some of the teams that are involved. So Compleo, My Energy, Drax, they're all coming on board for the first time. So this is their first rally. We're visiting sites that are either owned by them or managed by them. So that'll be interesting. And then we've got a couple of other, again, going back to Linda, she's introduced me to Arnold White Group, who have opened this new hub just outside of Leighton Buzzard, which I think, and I stand corrected, but I think I'm right in saying, has the largest on land wind turbine in the country.
Oh my good grief.
Powering 10 or 12 ultra rapid chargers. There's battery storage on site, and they even have some of the bays there they've been made for buses and coaches.
Good God.
Which means when Jamie rocks up in his 44-ton e-Actros, he'll just park up, plug in, away we go. So we're going to showcase some really sort of new and innovative sites this year as well. We're going to GridServe in Norwich on day 3. We've done the electric forecourt in Braintree in 2022, but this is a relatively new site for them. So we're going to go there on day 3, which I'm really, really excited about as well. So, yeah, watch this space first week of July.
It's all going to be brilliant. Now, do you know what? We've been talking for such a long time.
I know, let's shut up, haven't I?
No, I don't really like that. I'd love to talk to you for so much longer. I've got to have you back on again because we do need to talk about the GF100. Yeah. We've been talking for over an hour now, Cole.
Have we really? Sorry, love.
Yeah. But so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I want to bring you back on after, because I am hoping that I can be a driver on the EV rally this year. So we'll see how it goes, because there's a new team, isn't there? There's Women Drive Electric. George Thurman and Michelle Breffett. So their team, I'm hoping that I'm going to be part of that. I may be a hanger on. Hopefully we'll see how it goes. But look, just to say, for anybody who wants to get hold of Colin, right? So you've got a number of websites. You've got the gf100.greenfleet.net. You've got greenfleet.net for the awards, and you've got events.greenfleet.net.
That's
as well. So that's where you are.
Find me on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the easiest ways.
And have a look at and see what's going on with regards to the rally. I mean, remind me the date of the rally.
The main one is the 1st to the 5th of July.
Yeah, that's it.
But we have got the Celtic series as well. So they're 3 2-day rallies: one for Wales, one for Scotland, one for Ireland, which are later in the year.
Which will be fantastic. So connect. If you're not connected with Cole, connect with him. Have a look what he's doing. Around the time of the rally, you'll just see this kind of massive kind of Ferrari of information and photos and people on social media showing you what this is like, including me, hopefully. So but Cole, listen, you've been an absolute star. I will have you back on again, I promise.
Yeah, that'd be great. Let's do it after the rally.
Absolutely.
So maybe we can share some stories and experiences, and I'm sure there'll be a few that we can't share, but let's do it again after the rally. And but in the meantime, it'd be lovely to catch up with you beforehand if we can.
Thank you, Cole. And listen, thank you to you, and thank you to everybody else for watching and listening, and I shall see you next time. Bye-bye.
Lovely. Thanks for having me on. Bye.
Thanks for watching this episode of Electric Evolution. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons to stay connected with us. And if you're inspired by our journey towards a sustainable future and want to support our mission on a monthly basis, please check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/Electric Evolution Podcast.
Your support really helps us to bring the latest insights and discussions in the world of clean energy, electric vehicle charging and sustainability to you. If a regular subscription isn't what you're looking for, you can always consider buying us a coffee. Just head over to www.buymeacoffee.com/Electric Evolution Podcast. Every cup helps us to keep the electric evolution moving forwards. And if you're curious about our work in the EV infrastructure sector at Full Circle Continuous Improvement, why not visit us at www.fullcircleci.co.uk to find out more. And if you want to send me a message, you can always email me on liz@fullcircleci.co.uk. And finally, please don't forget to share this podcast if it sparked your interest. And let's keep spreading the word about all of these topics that we're covering. So, until next time, see you soon. Bye!